Hey Miranda, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
I'm good, and I should have said this before I started recording, and I apologize. So I was just going to get you to give a quick little synopsis, who you are, what you do, and
Okay.
just what you would normally say to our networking groups is fine.
Yeah, so my name is Miranda O'Connor. I'm one of the co-founders of The Art of Storytelling. And we are a small boutique video and photography studio located in Orangeville, Ontario. And we really help businesses and organizations to tell their story, to engage, and to really interact and communicate their values to their audience.
And how did you get into it? How did what
Yeah,
drove you to that industry?
so the background is my husband and I have always been in business together. Originally, we were doing graphic design and web design, and this was like in the early 2000s. And then he got interested in photography because we were hiring photographers. So he took on the role of learning how to do photography, and that was another service that we added. And we had quite a few staff with us at the time. And, at the turn of film to digital, which was happening at, the 2000 kind of time, um, we took the initiative to do digital video, which was something that was, very new, fairly expensive, hard to get into. But we took the chance, and we, also added video to our services, and that really took off. So we grew our studio very rapidly, and we had sometimes like 10 or 12 staff members filming and editing all day, every day, multiple clients, multiple shoots a day. So we were running a pretty busy agency at the time. And video has really been the one thing that I think we're very good at. So we're really good at advising clients on what approach to take and how to really go about planning this video production, because people don't necessarily know. I just spoke with a client this morning who said she wants to do like a 1.5 minute video. And then she started telling me, but I want to talk to, this person and the CEO and this person and the other stakeholder. And there were 5 people. And I said, okay, hold on. Let me tell you what the limitations are here, because you're saying 2 things that aren't matching, right? So, and it's just to, be able to say, okay, hold on, let's rethink this. Maybe we need to have only 2 people in this very short video. Otherwise, it's not going to come across very well. So giving that kind of advice that comes with experience is really our strength. And but other than that, I think it's also the the expertise that we have in the cameras, the equipment, and the editing. It's all very top of the line cinematic, so that the quality and the quality control is very high, and that's how we guarantee a good product every time, so that people are proud of the video that we give them, which is about themselves. We're not doing any magic to make them better at what they do. We're just helping them to be presented in the best way.
So I'm gonna go back to I did, and I was reading that some of the compliments or the skills that they said on your LinkedIn profile was web development. I'm like, and you just answered that question. So did the video side of it kind of outgrow the rest of the agency and morph the
You know
company
what?
into
I
it?
think what really happened with the web development was we had our own hosting, like we had a hosting company, we had a web, and this was an early web development, like way before WordPress. So it was actually programming. And it was pretty costly and time consuming to make a website. You couldn't just throw it together quickly. And it was at the same time that we were getting a little more into the photography and video, and that was taking off. And we found that, organizations were sometimes choosing to, let's just do Facebook. We don't need to build a website anymore. And there was that kind of in between time where people weren't really sure, should we do this or what? And we took the opportunity to sell the web hosting and the web design business to a competitor friend of ours. And it was a bit of a relief to get rid of that, because there was also no way for clients to do their updates. So we had to do every single little update. So it was very much a painful process at that time. And the video was taking off, and it was more enjoyable, has more impact. Yeah, and we learn so much when we help people make videos about themselves.
No, that makes sense. And I remember that time. I used to have a web development company back in the early 2000s, and I remember before WordPress and whatnot. And then WordPress came on and it was like, oh, well, we don't need anybody to build a website, but now there's still, so it is interesting how that things just kind of pivoted, right? I used to work for a company that had an email service, and then the company itself became the email service because it was so successful. So it sort of feels
Yeah.
like the same thing that happened with
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so did you moved from, I'm going to cover this because you did work, you went to school here in Canada, York,
did. I did.
and then I guess you traveled, you did Edinburgh for your MBA and, or did you do
Yeah.
it?
But when I went to York, I was so I was born in Canada and I lived here for a few years with my parents when I was small, and then my parents moved back to Trinidad. My mother's from Trinidad, and my father's from Montreal. So we moved there when I was fairly young. So I really grew up there, and I came to York to do university. So I lived at York for many years. So that was my like living in Canada days at university. But yeah, and then we decided when the kids were getting to a certain age and different school systems would not have worked so well. So we, made the big decision for me to move back to Canada. And initially, I don't think we had really planned to start the business again in Canada. We thought, well, we'll just come to Canada and we'll get jobs. Not so easy for people with no Canadian experience, like no matter what, even if you have Canadian education, doesn't matter. And it was actually just before COVID too. So we kind of started doing some video projects, but we were still flying back to Trinidad to film for some of our like legacy clients that we still have. And then with COVID, that was it. There was no more, couldn't fly anywhere. But it also created opportunities for us to do a lot of local work with like high schools needed graduation videos and other people needed online training videos. And there was a huge pivot to this online, we need to do this award ceremony virtually. Can you do it? So we did get some good opportunities out of that. And then, since there, it's just continued to grow.
So you had a successful business in Trinidad. Sounds very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Put a stop on that. Came here, and had launched it. Like, from my understanding, you had to launch all over again. Like what? So
Yeah.
it was good news, bad news. I mean, all that's the good part. What did you learn with the opportunity to start over again? And then we'll say the negative side for the next question.
Yeah, I mean, the opportunity was it was very difficult to start over again. We also live in a small town. We live in Orangeville, and that has its, its benefits and its disadvantages. And, the benefit was we just started, doing a few little things for people who asked us. Some of it was voluntary, and it just took off because there were no other service providers that were providing anything of any quality standards. So it really took off, and we've had a lot of good local support from local businesses, from the town, and from the county overall. So it's been a blessing, as well as, it's not as big as the Toronto market, but I think there's still good opportunities in different markets.
So 2 questions there. So why Orangeville? And then the second question, you can answer it, whatever, like, does it mean now that you're growing, are you driving a lot to bigger markets?
Yes. So why Orangeville is it's just how things happen. And my roommate at York University, she lived in Orangeville. So, we would come and spend weekends up here with her family. So I was like, I knew her very well, and I knew her family and friends. So when we would come up to visit, we would come and stay here. And we thought, okay, this is convenient. It's not too far from Toronto. It's not too far from the airport. We were doing a lot of work back at home, so we had to be, within airport reach reasonably. We looked at Vancouver and we said, okay, that's just too much with the time zone and too many flights. So that's why Orangeville. And what was your second question?
So now as you're growing, is it forcing you to move to other markets, to drive to other markets?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've always been serving like GTA in general. So sometimes we have clients that are downtown Toronto, sometimes it's Hamilton, sometimes it's Barrie. So it's kind of all over, and that's fine. We do have work like in Kitchener-Waterloo and Vaughan and different municipalities. So, and I think most video productions do serve maybe like a 2-hour driving radius or more, obviously with different travel costs. But yeah, typically it's 2-hour driving is what we do.
I was just kind of branching off. You mentioned travel costs, and I remember the conversation we had in our last group, like factoring terms of payments and stuff like that. How does that travel impact costs for you? Like, do you try to be competitive in those other markets, but not charging travel costs? And what does that do to you as an organization?
Yeah, we try not to, I mean, we try to be competitive because, you can hire a videographer in any city pretty much. So there is definitely a balance between, the travel costs and not charging the travel costs. But I mean, like we try not to charge for maybe not necessarily our time, but maybe we'll just charge for the gas in the car, like the mileage. Some people will charge, 50% of their hourly rate on the time that they take traveling. We try not to do that unless like we know it's a big client and it's corporate and they have budget for that and it's expected. But small, our packages really vary based on, the impact and the value that we bring to the organization. So if it's a not-for-profit or a really small business, we will give them a more reasonable package that gives them the value that they're going to get out of it, whereas larger organizations get a lot more value and they are priced accordingly.
That makes sense. I was parts of the company. That was Blair Enns from Creative. I can't remember the name of the book. He really talks about price the company, not the project. So it's good.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, even when you just talk to the client, you get a sense of, okay, so would $2,500 be your kind of price range, or would you like a $5,000 package or a $10,000 package? And it varies so much. Some clients will call and say, well, I budgeted $8,000 for this. So, you start to be able to recognize which clients place what kind of value on the different types of work.
And then I guess it gives you more freedom to do what you need
Correct.
to do.
Yeah, you can adjust the scope more. You can, give them all the bells and whistles that they want, but at least you have an idea of, okay, this client, they really just need like a basic package, and just give them that and not try to upsell them on things that they won't necessarily need or can't afford.
The market so I have a stepbrother that had kind of a similar story. He had a full-fledged agency, took on videography, and it just sort of merged to become he still does the other elements, but it became a huge element of the market.
Mm-hmm.
It's a competitive market. I've run into quite a few that do what you do, smaller companies that do what you do, all of them doing well. What would you say, like you've had 2 opportunities to start a company and gain from that. And what would you say to somebody who's fresh out of school and with a film background or something like that, that keen to get in the market? What are the things that you did right? What are the things you would do differently to starting off? Covering everything, finances, office space, where you're located, everything. What did you learn?
Yeah. I mean, we learned that, you don't need the office space unless you need the office space. And you don't need the office space unless you are close to a market that wants a lot of studio space. Even when we had a huge studio in Trinidad, we would not use the studio enough of the time, right? So you pay a lot of rent for space that's not getting used every day. So I would definitely stay away from renting a big space unless you are like right in the market and the market wants that. I think it depends on what you do. And what we do is very people-centered. So we go to the businesses. We want to tell the story in the business. We don't necessarily need the studio. So, we decided when we came to Canada, we would never have a big studio again. If we needed to do something in a studio, we would just rent a space for a day. It's never happened. We have never needed to do that because everybody wants you to just come to them, do it on location, do it in their space. And that's what gives you like the real authentic feel of the company is when you can see the company. I I think also trying to scale too fast does not necessarily mean that you are making any more profit. I mean, I used to run the numbers and we could have 12 people working for us and we could be doing 4 projects a week. And the profit is not necessarily more than when it's just 2 people on a smaller scale. So, and I've heard that from a lot of videographers who have gone from, I did the big thing and now I'm like, no, I'm not doing that again. I'm going back to like the small, more personal service. You end up with the same profit. You as the business owner, you end up with the same profit sometimes. Yeah,
Are you
that's,
talking, do you mind if are you talking profit as a percentage or talk actual dollar in
I'm
your wallet?
talking like actual dollars that you as the
In your wallet,
business
yeah.
owner, the
Good to know.
difference between having 12 people in a big studio, you have to generate so much more work to pay all of these staff and the studio space, compared to if you didn't have the big studio space, you didn't have the staff. Now you only need like 3 clients a month instead of 12 clients a month. And if you're in a market where it's really hard to get 12 clients a month, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. We were lucky that we were in a market that had few video production companies, but lots of big offices because it's kind of like the hub of the Caribbean. So we did have a lot of work and it was still profitable, but I wouldn't say it was necessarily hugely more profitable than running the same thing on a small scale. So yeah, it's like, don't scale too fast because all you're doing is trying to bring in more work to pay your staff.
You said run the numbers, right? And I know you have a background to do that, but others probably wouldn't, right? That are in this industry doing what you're doing. How important is it for you to know the numbers and understand the numbers to run a business successfully?
Yeah, it's very important to keep on track of, I think your pricing is the most important thing, and then also being realistic with the time expectancy for each project, because it's always kind of tricky to know exactly how many hours is it going to take, but you have to plan like it's probably going to take this long. We have to be able to cover at least, you know, a certain dollar value per hour, so that at the end of the year, when you say, okay, we worked, you know, 10 months out of 12 months, give or take, you know, vacation or whatever, and then you start to work that back, how many hours of work time do you actually have? You got to make sure that the dollar value per hour is actually going to get you the goal that you want at the end of the year, right? Because you could be completely full and work for a whole month, but you're doing projects that have been priced too small.
Yeah, makes sense. I promise to keep this around 20 minutes. We're at that mark right now. What else would you like people to know about you that we probably wouldn't know just from a general networking conversation?
I mean, I also do some other projects, marketing-based projects that's not video and photography necessarily. I work with, some of my clients asked me to do some more things. So like I worked with one agriculture client who said, okay, I need to redo my website. I've now like merged with these companies. But you know my companies very intimately because I've done like so much interviews with each of the different people in the company departments. You know my company in depth. Can you write up the information for the website and then work with the creative writer to now write it in a creative way? And then can you also like catalog all of the photography into product photography? So it was a lot of back end work to supply to the web developer. So I can kind of work on some like deeper projects like that where like I have all of that information so I can make it into something else. I've also worked with tourist boards to supply like photography and write-ups for different destination promotions, because we had the photography. And then one really interesting project that I worked on for most of the last like 12 months, it just wrapped up, is with a client in Italy who had hired us to do their video when they came to Toronto to do a trade show, and they do that every year. And they hired us to do their video and photography of the trade show and all the other activities around that. And they hired me to do more of their PR, working with influencers in Toronto, getting those influencers to run giveaways with their products, tabulating the results of those social media campaigns, and then taking some of these influencers and journalists on tours to Italy to actually see where the food is being produced, and then keeping track of all of the social media generated from that. So a social media campaign management is what I did for them. And I mean, we've done other things as well. Like, she's also asked me to run 2 or 3 different press dinners and invite 100 journalists to these press dinners and organize the whole dinner at this restaurant with like the printed menus and the giveaway bags. And so sometimes, I get the opportunity to work a lot deeper and closer with clients. It usually starts with a video and photography project. And then, if there's other opportunities, we can go a lot further.
And I'd imagine, let's try to keep this tight, but that depends on the client, right? It sounds like a really good client will let you go a little further.
Yeah.
But you've also, it sounds like you try to keep the scope. There's some ties, there's nuanced ties. Like, I mean, with the video, with the social media stuff, I can see, because you were doing the video, you're shooting all the campaigns, providing all the material and stuff like that. And you guys do photography and video. So with the archive of photography, the website, and then with your web background, that just made sense. Writing for them, like, exactly what they needed.
Yeah.
What would somebody else in the same situation, what would your advice be? Last question, and just, you can make this as long as you want. What would your advice be around scope of?
I think if you have skills that are more than, what's just on the surface of your company, like we are a video and photography company, and we say that because it's very specific. Other people say, oh, I do digital marketing, and that's like, oh, that could be like all kinds of stuff, right? So I try and keep very specific on, we do, photography and video storytelling for businesses. But if you have other fields that you have expertise in, tell your clients what else you can do for them. So I do make a point when I do my presentation to a new client, here's all the video and photography stuff. We can also work with you a bit deeper on longer projects that you need done. And just remind them so that they know, okay, let me call them and see if Miranda will work on this for 3 months with me. Because it's not like a one-off. A lot of video production is one-off. But it's more those regular clients who would say, okay, can you also do this? Can you make me a presentation to give to Sobeys? Can you do like a PDF or something, or a PowerPoint? Can you do some other things for us? And it's companies that don't necessarily have a communications manager in-house, which a lot of companies don't, or they have a communications manager who's very busy and doesn't have time to do other things. So it's just keeping that close relationship with your client and reminding them of everything that you can do.
I love it. That's a great wrap. I'm gonna call it a wrap.
Okay.
And it was great. Thank you for letting me get to know you a little bit better and share that information with the rest of the folks in the group. Thanks, Miranda.
Thanks for having me, Richard.
I'll see you. Good luck with your next call. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye now.